Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Wes. We are trying to fix Feats in today's video, so let's go. Right, yeah, we're trying to fix the Feats specifically from what book is this again? Tal Dorei campaign setting Reborn. It's not new, it's been around for a while. Some of you may have it, but some of you might not. Some of you might not be fans of Critical Role, or just getting into D&D, or just getting into Critical Role. So this video is for you. And because these feats and book was created before the revised rules, they do need some fixing. So let's get right into it with our first feat, which is going to be Cruel. And this is going to give you a pool of d6s equal to your proficiency bonus that you can spend on a number of things. For example, dealing more damage, boosting an intimidation check, or even gaining temporary hit points on a crit. Once you expend all your d6s, you get them back on a long rest. Nothing really to fix with this one because it kind of just scales with proficiency bonus and does exactly what it says it does. I do love giving this to barbarians for free around the same time. Oh, actually, I guess the fix would be increase either your charisma, strength, or dexterity with it. If you are going to give it a bonus, like make it a general feat, but if you're going to give it away for free, I wouldn't give the ability score increase. I would just, like I said, give it to barbarians because I personally don't like their brutal strikes feature. Giving up advantage, I mean, granted, I've literally rolled like 1s and 2s back to back with advantage with multi-attack as a barbarian, so but my whole big thing is that you can't benefit from advantage in any way, shape, or form. So like if somebody else had fairy fire or whatnot, so I'm like, no, let them reckless attack like normal and then give them this to make up the difference, at least at early levels or when they first get proto strikes. So that's Cruel, and let's move on to our next one. So our next one's Flash Recall. It was written in the days of old, so it talks about how okay, what it does. Bonus action, you can basically swap out a spell in your spell list that's no more than first level. Oh no, it can be first level or higher. So like a wizard can just swap out their one of their prepared spells. You have to have prepared spells, which thankfully in the revised rules all casters are prepared. However, only druids, clerics, and wizards are truly prepared casters. For everyone else, I would let them do this still, but with a spell that they like trained out at one point as they leveled up. So like, or even I believe rangers and paladins have the once a day or once per long rest can swap out a spell. If they decided, oh man, I wish I could swap out too, this is a good feat for them. Same thing. I guess I would, if you're making it a general feat, have it increase intelligence, charisma, or wisdom. If you're just giving it out for free, just keep it out as is. Really handy for a warlock, I'm thinking now, because they have very limited number of spell slots, and being able to bonus action swap out a spell for like a different spell that I may have learned at one point but no longer have like prepared feels very good. It's like considering you only have so many spell slots, so having that right spell for the job is just dandy, I guess. So our next one is Mystic Conflux, which it lets you attune up to 4 items instead of 1, and you always have the identify spell prepared and can cast it without any material components or spell slot once per long rest. Obviously, the fixes are you can cast it again with existing spell slots, like you know how Magic Initiate and all the spells have been written after like Tasha's these days, or feats that give you spells have been written. The other fix would honestly be same thing as before, increase your intelligence, wisdom, or actually I think I would just let this increase whatever feat you want, whether that be strength or no, maybe not strength or dex, probably constitution or one of the intelligence or mental stats. That's how I would do that. However, I know I go attunement equals proficiency bonus, and I know quite a few DMs who do that. I believe even Ted from Nerd Immersion does that. Change to you can attune to a number of magic items equal to your proficiency bonus. Now in D&D Beyond, you can't actually change that yourself unless you homebrew it that way, and if you try to, it's just going to give your player 6 attunement slots right off the get. So just be careful, or make sure you be careful with how many attunement magic items you hand out to them, or just constantly remind them whenever you do hand out magic items, or they decide to pass around magic items to each other. That's artificers. Yeah, I mean, if an artificer wants to take this feat, I would just remove the restrictions of how many infusions they could have. That's how I would fix that for them specifically. Remarkable recovery, there's no fixes. You gain a +1 from it. It still works with even how the potion drinking rules work in the revised rules. So yeah, that one's pretty good on its own. Okay, so whenever you successfully stabilize, you regain a number of hit points equal to your constitution modifier, which is honestly great because you can just, like, if there's for some reason no one who can save you, or actually, perfect example, my character was falling and none of the other party members were around. Thankfully, I had levitate on before I was knocked unconscious, which the levitate spell says when you drop concentration, you still float gently to the ground. So I stabilized as I was falling. I would have, instead of being unconscious, I would have stabilized and had 3 HP, which at that point I would have just, as soon as I would have laid on hands myself and kept things going, stayed in the fight a bit longer. And then the last part of this is whenever you drink a healing potion, get healed, or like hit dice, whatever, you also gain a number of extra hit points equal to your constitution as well. So yeah, remarkable recovery, pretty good. Now we have spell driver. So the way the revised rules work, you can only cast one spell with a spell slot per turn. Things like Fey Touched, which lets you cast a spell without a spell slot, or a perfect example earlier, the Mystic Conflux I gave you Identify. You can cast that without a spell slot, so you can cast Identify in that, like, as your action, and then you could technically bonus action Misty Step. Misty Step using a spell slot, and Mystic Conflux not using a spell slot. Or if you have Fey Touch and Mystic Conflux, then you're not spending a spell slot at all with either one. What Spell Driver does is, if you cast a spell as a bonus action, you can cast a spell again as an action, but it can't be any higher than 3rd level. This is like why I feel like this is the reason most people don't like Matt Mercer and Critical Role, like, way of running the game, was because of this ability right here, which wasn't a feat back then. However, I believe he made it one just to, like, when they made this book. This still works though, because let's say you are using your spell slots to cast Misty Step, and then you wanted to cast another spell like Cure Wounds. Like, you wanted to Misty Step to get closer to your ally, and then you wanted to Cure Wounds them once you got there, because Cure Wounds is a touch spell. This would still work. So it's not that bad. However, the requirements of level 11, when you can, I would drop that prerequisite, considering you could technically Misty Step and Cure Wounds way earlier if one of them was without a spell slot. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how I feel about that one. Whether dropping it, like, narratively, yeah, you were able to do this earlier, but you weren't but that's because you had a gift or power that lets you do it earlier. At this level, it's more like a training thing, I feel like. But not everyone plays for the narrative. Some people just play for the action, so I can go either way with this. Let me know how you feel about it down below, honestly. Thrown Weapon Master. Another Thrown Weapon Master, because I believe I covered one earlier before with my other, one of my other videos. However, this one's also going to increase your dex or strength. believe the other one did too. It's going to give all weapons that don't have the thrown property the thrown property. If they're one-handed, they're going to have the normal throwing range. If they're two-handed, they have a reduced range. And if the weapon already had the thrown property, the range is increased. And if you miss, the weapon automatically returns to your hand, Thor style. That's Thrown Weapon Master. Nothing bad here. Works well with other thrown weapon feats. In fact, I would just like, if I had a character who's really into thrown weapons, I would just, and they decided to take this, I would also give them the other one, which I forget what the benefits are of the other one at this point, even though I only did the video, I think, like 3 to 2 weeks ago. 3 videos a week, man, what can I say? So yeah, that's basically Thrown Weapon Master. And then we have Vital Sacrifice, which, disclaimer about self-harm, the way the feat was initially written itself. However, we're changing that and updating it. And I don't care what your fantasy is. Unless we're talking survival, I'm not okay with self-harm. So, Vital Sacrifice. I would change this to, first off, Constitution +1. And then, where it says you take a d6 necrotic damage, I would just say you expend a hit dice. And then you can add that hit dice to an attack roll. You can roll 2 hit dice when you land an attack and add it to damage. The third option is you can, when you're forced to make a dex save, con save, or strength save, you can reduce the save DC by d4, which is just the same thing as you increase your roll by d4, like Bless does. So I would just word it like Bless to make it make easier sense. But yeah, that's how I would. Honestly, I would just do the same. I would just remove that whole bottom part and add it to the first feature of, like, when you make an attack roll or a strength, dex, or con save, you can decide to add whatever the hit dice rolled was to that, you know? Whatever your expended hit dice value is. That's how I would fix Vital Sacrifice, in my opinion. I mean, for those of you who still like the whole self-harm aspect of playing like Sangomancy and other feats like that, that's on you. I'm not comfortable with that, but that's just me. You can do you. I would just, once again, add the +1 con to it, and that's the only main fix that I would do. If you don't want to do all the extra word changes that really don't mean anything in mechanics. Well, actually they do, because one version makes your character take damage, the other means you lose a hit dice, which you can't regain until you take a long rest. But yeah, that's all the feats. Let me know what you think down below. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Wes, where's the fun, and bye.